you're an educator in the state of California, well, any state that takes a Smarter Balanced Assessment, well, in the state of California, the Smarter Balanced Assessment, for us, it's called the California Assessment for Student Performance and Progress. We take ours at the end of the year, but that data is really good information. For example, we have the English Language Arts assessment and the mathematics assessment and the science assessment. What you can do as a teacher at the beginning of the school year, if you are in grades 4 through 9 and even in grade 12, because it's the previous year that took the assessment, 3 through 8 and grade 11, you can look at your students' data in English or mathematics or science, for example. Well, science is only 5th, 8th, and 11th grade for us. I think it's 10th, 11th, and or 12th in the state of California, but for us, we do it in 11th grade for science. So what you can do is you can look at the percentage of students that were proficient in a specific area. We have 4 claims in the state of California for English Language Arts. We have 4 in mathematics, but it's broken down into 3. So for example, you can look at the listening and speaking area and then put the actual claim question in ChatGPT and ask it to create a performance task for you. Now, of course, you're looking at the percentage of students that almost met the state standard, and you want to come up with a prompt that allows students to think, to read, to think about what they've read, to write about it and speak about it. And I'm saying this because typically we have proficient readers, but we know that students are actually have learned the information is when they can write about it effectively and they can speak about it and have a conversation about it. So reading typically isn't always the problem, but it's what can they do with the information that they have just learned. Now, can they talk about it? Because what we want our students to do is to have peer-to-peer conversations. So you can have ChatGPT create a prompt for you to allow students to talk to each other. Create a performance task for whatever area they're struggling with, and have that be an introduction to every class period if you're in middle or high school. You can also do that in elementary because you can start to teach children. I don't know if ChatGPT is available in your school district, but most teachers will have access to it at home. So you can create this prompt, a daily prompt. You can create 10 prompts or 20 prompts for the month of September on whatever it is, and have them talk about it, dialogue about it, write about it, and exchange it. Now you could, if ChatGPT was available for students, I'm going to go with it may not be, you could ask students to write it in Google, to copy it, put it in ChatGPT and have ChatGPT analyze it, and then have students talk about what that outcome was. Can you imagine what that would be? The time constraints that we have in education, ChatGPT can open up a big window of time because you now have this co-teacher that's helping students process what they're learning. Now, I'm aware that ChatGPT is it's in its infant stage or in its very elementary stage, about, I would say, the age of a 5-year-old, trying to get a lot of information talking to you, but we're learning with it. And I am pretty confident that if you ask ChatGPT to analyze the writing of a first grader for whatever prompt it was, because whatever you put in it is what you'll get out of it, and to see what it says and then have kids talk about, well, this artificial intelligence said this, what do you think? Do you agree with this? And then have them have like this third party that's having a peer-to-peer conversation with them. Now, assuming they don't have access to that, you could at least come up with performance tasks that kids can talk to each other about. You can also do that in mathematics, create a performance task about whatever mathematical problem they're working on. Maybe it's a geometric problem. Maybe they're looking at the sum of a number. Maybe they're looking at multiplication. Maybe they have to look at the averages or the speed of an object's distance over time, and it can create an assessment for them. So really looking at it from that perspective. In science, you can have it, my area I love, you can have ChatGPT create a performance task around a domain like physical science or chemical science or biological science or earth and space, and have students talk about it. and see what they come up with. Now, of course, you're the expert in your classroom. If you're an educator and you want it to be authentic to what is happening in your environment with your students. So grapple with it, play with it, see what performance tasks it comes up with, because sometimes we go home and we're trying to create lessons that take forever. But imagine what ChatGPT can do for you if you let it create performance tasks for you with a lesson for 30 days. And you can, let's say you have already a textbook that goes along with it. And my definition of curriculum are the state standards, but I'm going to say that your definition may be that it's the product, the book that you have, which is okay, but that product, you can go into that unit and look at what it's saying and pick one particular standard and put the story in ChatGPT and say, create a performance task that allows students to talk about this science concept after you have done some direct instruction. Because I'm telling you that students who talk to each other, learn and explore with each other, are able to grapple with the new content, are able to put this information in their long-term memory. I'm a middle school science teacher by trade. And if I was the only one talking all 5, 6, 7, 8 periods of the day, I'm the only one learning, because learning happens when other people can tell you what they've learned. It's another form of teaching another student. So if 2 students, 3 students are talking about what they're learning, they're having a conversation, maybe it's a debate, maybe it's a discussion, maybe it's agree or disagree, maybe it's the pros and cons, then students are learning. But if you're the only one standing there and delivering it, you're brilliant. But students are taking it in and they're not writing about it and talking about it, exchanging papers with each other. They're not learning. They're taking in information, and unless they're going back home to read it, write about it, and talk about it with someone else, like a parent or a sibling, they're not learning it the way they could. But if you will take a step back and let kids talk, I know some of you are like, oh my gosh, I would lose control of my classroom. Let your students have a conversation with each other. Let them talk about the structure of matter. Let them talk about molecular equations. Let them talk about density. Let them talk about concepts in biological science, DNA, and let them talk about the parts of a cell. Let them have those conversations, and then you can keep getting those performance tasks. And one day, when students are allowed to use it, then they can ask ChatGPT to help them along the way. But if you're learning about ChatGPT, when students get to use it in school, you'll get to teach them the appropriate ways to use it so they're not using it to do the work for them. So make sure that you subscribe, turn on the bell, and go ahead in the comments and look in the description and put yourself on the email list, and you'll get notified of my new and upcoming videos. Thank you so much for joining me today.